Hey everyone, welcome to episode 19 of New Slang Podcast. I'm Thomas Mooney. I'm the editor-in-chief of New Slang here in Lubbock. And earlier this week, news came out that Stephenville-based Dolly Shine is going to be disbanding, breaking up. They have a little run of shows probably going through the end of September, but after that, they're going to be moving on to other projects. I know there's a whole lot of talk about them carrying on as Lawless Americans, which was a side project of Jared's. We'll see what happens here. I mean, I thought Dolly Shine's last record was their best overall, project they've done. I thought they were really one of these up-and-coming bands. I guess you could still say that everyone involved is still in this up-and-coming phase, though. And anyway, so I guess about a month back, we did a podcast with Zack of Dolly Shine. We were going to be running it pretty soon anyway, so it was just one of those, hey, let's just go ahead and do it this week, while it's still semi-relevant. Anyways, yeah, we did this podcast, this interview at Blue Light, I guess the last time they played here, and talk about the making of that new record, and talking about a lot of Zack's history as far as where he came up musically, all that kind of good stuff. I'm sure everyone in the band is still going to be doing music things. We'll just be seeing them in different under different monikers, I guess. One of the things on the horizon for us in Blue Light pretty soon is going to be the songwriter competition. That's going to be getting started Monday, September 12th. There's going to be 5 preliminary rounds. Basically, every Monday after then for the next 6 weeks is going to be part of the songwriter competition. If you're a singer-songwriter and you're wanting to get involved, know how to sign up, all that kind of stuff, go to newslanglubbock.com, find the article on it, and that's where all the information is going to be on how to sign up and get registered for the songwriter competition. It's going to be a lot of fun this year. I'm not sure if I can really go ahead and say who's involved in the competition as far as judges go, but it's going to be some really big names, and we're really excited about having them involved, having them be not just judging the competition, but it feels like everyone who's involved is wanting to be part of it in a bigger way, really share their knowledge on what they've done as far as being songwriters and artists, and kind of I guess, be a little bit more involved in that area, it feels like, and we're really excited about everything like that. So again, if you're wanting to sign up, go to newslanglubbock.com, and all the details will be there. We still have open spots for every week of the prelim rounds, so yeah, sign up. Anyways, we'll go ahead and get on to this podcast with Zack, so here we are. Okay, so I really don't do intros on here or anything, but okay, so this week I was out in Big Bend, which is kind of like your record. The new record's very West Texas, very Big Bendy.
Heck yeah, man. Big Bend area is pretty cool. I love that place.
Now, you were telling me about, I guess last time we did that interview, you were saying about how Rattlesnake really kind of came out of you driving down there one time, and you really worked on that song. I guess the inspiration of that song came from going down there.
Yeah, man. There's a certain romance about West Texas, if you will. And, I think as a songwriter, you really can't help but to be drawn to that kind of stuff, or at least I am. It's kind of always, had that kind of effect on me.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of that sound gets into the rest of the record. It feels like you guys really did try to make it sound as much like West Texas, as much of a, I guess there's more desolation, more barrenness to the record versus the last few records have been more, I don't know. They feel like they've been driven more about going to the bar. Not necessarily going to the bar, but like the scenes around a bar. If that makes sense.
Right, yeah. I think Rattlesnake was probably one of the first songs we actually had written for this record, and then Jared had Snakeskin Boots, and that really kind of fit along with this whole vibe. And then, we didn't really intentionally try to write the record like that per se, but I think it just kind of bled over into it, and,
Well, what's like the strangest thing you guys did on this new record? Like that you've never done before? Anything that you just thought was going to be going off the rails and then just pulled it back into?
Man, I don't think there was anything strange with this record. We just experimented on keeping this record more stripped down and not so polished, not so many, crazy noodling guitar and fiddle parts. We wanted to more so make this record, about the band, as a whole, instead of trying to show off certain parts.
Yeah. If you look at the liner notes of this record, there's more songwriting credits. It's kind of divvied up between you and Ben, and Jared obviously has a song, and I can't remember who else. There's somebody.
A friend of mine, Taylor Davis, has a song on this record, and Taylor's such a great songwriter from South Texas, and he doesn't really, do a whole lot within the music scene, but I've just always felt like his stuff was, so good that it needed to be showcased. So I've made a deal with him that I'll cut one of his songs on every one of my records that I ever record.
Yeah.
And Isaac Hoskins wrote Hitchhiking, and that dude's just such a gritty songwriter. I've been a fan of his stuff for a while. So we tried that song out live for a couple months and just really liked it. It seemed to fit the vibe for this record too. So.
Charlie was telling me that you guys had asked about West Texas in My Eye.
Yeah. Man.
That would have fit in there as well,
Yeah, I heard that song actually at the Blue Light for the first time, and I can remember just being kind of in awe, of it, and really kind of fell in love with that tune from the first time I heard it. So.
Yeah, he was saying, he told you, I really just want to get it out first, but I swear, man, that would have been a perfect song on the album. It fit the themes really well. Yeah,
it definitely would have, but that's I don't know. That's kind of how the dice fall sometimes.
Yeah. You ever think we'll get around to that, or do you think it's kind of?
Man, I'm gonna keep throwing it out there to Charlie and just keep it in the back of his mind, and maybe one day we'll pull it off the shelf and try to stick it on a record somewhere.
Yeah, I think he's really open to, people covering the songs, but he's also like any songwriter. He's like, well, let me get my version out first,
Yeah, exactly. Each song kind of becomes your baby. It's a project of passion, and you do this because you love it. And you can't help but fall in love with the tunes.
You guys are gonna be going to play with Josh tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Big Spring, 4th of July kind of stuff. What other stuff you guys have on the 4th of July?
Man, really, this
schedule?
is our first year in a long time to actually be off on the 4th per se.
Oh, yeah.
So tomorrow wraps up our week, so it's gonna be nice to be able to spend some time at home and do some family stuff.
Yeah, you a firecracker guy, or
every now and then if they're there, I guess.
Yeah. A couple of weeks back, Dalton had texted me like, "Hey, do you know where I can get some firecrackers?" And I was like, "It's I don't know, it's May, or I guess it was." Like late May or early June or something like that. I'm like,
that's Dalton.
No, I don't
man.
have. Yeah,
just
exactly.
Ahead, I guess.
You think like Dalton is a firecracker guy. No, but I guess. Have you heard like he signed that record deal with Lightning Rod?
Yeah, man, I read about that.
That's what it was basically. He was wanting to pop some firecrackers. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not really. It feels like Dalton is the guy who knows all about the firecrackers.
Exactly.
Like every damn thing. You obsessed with anything like that?
Not really. I don't guess I have any weird or crazy obsessions.
Yeah. Nothing
too dangerous. I don't know. I guess about the wildest thing I do is I've been dipping snuff since I was 5. So that's a pretty bad habit, I guess.
Have you ever tried to quit?
Too many times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. First time I dipped I was probably like 11 or something like that, and I got it from my dad and of course, he didn't know, and a couple hours later, had a fucking massive headache and never really tried it again. I was just like, okay. I smoked cigarettes for a long time, but eventually quit that as well.
Yeah, I grew up around sale barns and cattlemen and stuff like that my whole life, and all those old men always had it.
Yeah.
And they thought it was funny to give it to me then, and I never really thought it would stick and be a habit, but it did, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. 4th of July. What are your plans? What are you doing?
Man, my wife is going to be on the road traveling out of the country with work, and so I'll probably just be home. I might go out and hang out at a buddy's house that I haven't seen in a long time, and just kind of lay low and enjoy being off.
Yeah. Thursday, or I say Thursday, the 3rd Turnpike's going to be up here, not at the Blue Light, but in town, so hopefully going to go see them and do a podcast again.
Heck yeah, never miss a good chance to go see those guys.
Yeah. You remember the first time you saw Turnpike?
Yeah, and I remember hearing them on the radio, long before I ever saw them, and just thinking, and it was right before that Diamonds and Gasoline record kind of blew up, that first single or so, and just thinking, man, these guys are, they're going to do something really great. And Wes, our fiddle player, and I, we'd won a songwriting contest with 95.9 The Ranch in Fort Worth. This is 6 years ago or longer even now. But the winner got to go do the Ranch Free Music Series on Wednesday nights in the summer for every weekend. And it just so happened, that our week was the night the Turnpike was playing. And I can remember just being, blown away by their live set. I thought they were doing so many cool things that, a lot of bands could aspire to do.
Yeah. I remember, I think like one of their first shows, if not their very first show in Texas, was here at the Blue Light.
Really?
Yeah. Of course, I wasn't here at that show or anything, but like I remember their last show inside here. It was like sold out like at 9:30 or something like that.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
It was still like an $8 ticket too.
Yeah.
Just one of those, like, they just fucking blew up so damn fast.
Yeah, it seems like as soon as that record kind of got out and took a little bit of flight, bam, they just took off.
Yeah. The first podcast we did was with RC and Evan, and they were talking about that very, very first record they did, which was Bossier City, which they were just, of course, that's out of print now. And, they said they were basically, recording it in somebody's house, and how it was, no money was put into it, and they look back at it now, and that's why they ended up recording those 2 songs to put on the new record, just because they're like, wow, I mean, these songs they deserve a better version than what was given. What's the song that you would do that to? Is there anything like you look back on, or like songs that you have that you wish, man, we should have done this? Or
yeah, thinking back off of our very first record that we put out, there was a song called The Show, and we don't even do that song live anymore, but I think it was probably one of the better songs that I had written at the time, and I can remember being extremely proud of it. But listening back to that record not too long ago, I think that song was extremely downplayed, so I wouldn't mind cutting that one again for sure.
Going back to Turnpike, one of my favorite things about them is that they blend a whole lot of the roots rock, a lot of the singer-songwriter, but also there's that pop sensibility, the same thing that really drove those 90s country bands. There's a lot of that in y'all too. Is that just something organic that you guys kind of build, or did you guys look at guys like Turnpike and to kind of like base your sound on?
It was never planned. Just the sounds we were able to make, at the time when we first started making music. That's kind of what started to shape us. And of course, we've listened to all those guys forever, but I guess we just always try to do our own thing, and it just came out for what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, like this last record, I think it's y'all's most solid piece of work so far. It sounds great throughout. It has a very, I guess, like there's something that runs through the entire record that feels natural and warm. And, you know, I think like you guys have gotten to this point of you know, I guess like a good creative center. You know, like you guys are pushing y'all's sound in a direction that I feel, I guess like I'm rambling now, but you're like in a happy medium of like the creative process.
Yeah, you know, that Room to Breathe record was, you know, it was more country and extremely planned out parts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we spent a lot of time recording that record, and it was a very methodical record. And then All In, the following record after that was, you know, I jokingly call it a garage rock record because that's pretty much what it was. You know, we just pretty much just said, oh, cool, we got these songs, you know, that are more rocking that we like to play live. Let's just put them on a record. And with this one, yeah, I'd definitely call it a happy medium. We did put some effort into this record and definitely some thought process, but we didn't, you know, try so hard to force something that, you know, didn't need to be. We just kind of let this record end up being what it was going to be. So It was an extremely easy process.
Yeah. Is it one of those things where, you know, you've been listening and, you know, listening to these songs for the last, I don't know how many months, but, you know, recording them, listening to masters, remixes of them, just those little details. Are you tired of the songs now, or do you have to like just put that aside and go like, hey, yeah, this is a record that's new to everyone else? So,
man, I think, you know, I would think that every artist kind of gets to that point where right up before the release time that you probably get a little tired of them. I know I kind of did, you know, just because we did spend so much time listening to these tunes and over and over and over in the studio or getting mixes back. But then, you know, when we heard that finished product and we started playing these songs live, you know, it just...
it's like a second wind.
Yeah, it just hit the spark again, so...
Yeah. What's like the last thing that you personally was writing?
I actually wrote the last two. I finished the last one up the day that I went and recorded it vocally. We'd already had the music, had it mapped out, but it's a song called Old Flame. And, you know, it took me a little longer on that song because I was, you know, trying to make a conclusion to a storyline. The song Should Have Known, this is the tail end of that song. And it's about, you know, a true relationship. And it was, you know, it was kind of tough to get through that one. But it was also one of my favorite songs on the record. Just, you know, the whole process, just dealing with it and being able to close that chapter.
Yeah. Speaking of Should Have Known, that has like some really great idiom use in there. Like, you know, you can't make a, what's the line about the stone?
You can't squeeze blood from the stone.
Yeah. That's a great idiom use. Turnpike's always done really well at that. I guess like those old sayings, those old idioms, like how did you...
Man, I actually had that can't squeeze blood from a stone line for quite a while, and then I started writing this song, and I did, you know, it just kind of worked out really, really great in that chorus, and I've always wanted to use it, so it was kind of my opportunity to be able to.
Yeah, I love that line, and like I think that's one of those things that also connects our music to our grandparents' music. You know, it's like these old idioms, these old phrases, being able to work those into the new.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've always, you know, spent time around the older generation, you know, speaking of like, you know, my parents and grandparents, especially, you know, growing up, but even now more so. But, you know, if you just ever just listen to their conversations, you know, they actually say some really cool shit. And if you can be able to, you know, pull a Guy Clark, you know, and be able to, you know, use some of those everyday old school sayings in your songs, you know, that a lot of people don't think about. But I think it's just a really neat way to be able to, like you said, bridge gaps between generations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are your parents, what do your family think about you being in a band?
You know, my mom's always been more cool with it, I guess, than my dad.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's really, really old school cowboy. And it took him a long time to come around to the fact that I was going to play music for a living. You know, we kind of butted heads for several years. But now he's getting more with it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's always weird. I guess like no one really thinks about the relationship between the parents, or like your family being a strain as far as like being out on the road. Typically, people when they think of strain relationships, it's the boyfriend, girlfriend, the wife, husband kind of
Right.
thing. And when you first starting out, it's the family, your parents, thinking like, shit, don't waste your, go to school, get something more, that you can fall back on. So I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think it took probably about the first time that we played Billy Bops was when my dad was like, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess, they're going to do all right maybe.
Yeah. What kind of music your parents listen to?
Man, my mom listens to everything, and my dad is, George Strait and those kind of guys. If he listens to the radio at all, we could go on a trip for hours, and that radio might not even be turned on.
Yeah. See, my dad was always he hated like if I bought CDs because he's like, well, you got a radio. You want to listen to music, listen to the radio.
Yeah.
It's like, well, this music doesn't come on the radio station. Like, we only have one station in Fort Stockton. Like, what do you want? It's kind of, I guess, like my dad's kind of old school in that way too. Though I guess he did get XM himself, so I don't know.
More options, man.
Yeah. You have XM?
I do. Well, I just bought a new car not too long ago, so I've got that 3-month trial thing that's going on. But first time I've ever really used XM, and I love it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool stuff on there.
Yeah. What's your go-to?
Man, I don't know. Prime Country's always usually pretty all right on there. It's got that 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And it's it's got some pretty great songs on there, so it can't really go wrong.
That's I know that they can't charge by like just the hey, you pick 5 stations kind of thing, but if you could just that's how I wish that they were able to do it. Like I would just tell them, hey, I want these 5 stations.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to put the rest of them on. Don't have to charge me for the whole bundle. Just give me 5. Yeah, Prime Country is really, really great. We were talking about that last week with Even Birds. Or no, I take that back. With Chris King last week. Yeah, great station. Your favorite 90s country guy or artist in general, actually. Go with that.
Man, that's extremely hard. Actually, most of my favorite country music, came out of that time frame, but Keith Whitley probably.
Yeah. Yeah. I always think of like I think like everyone can agree that George Strait is probably like the best 90s guy. And then like Garth Brooks, for some reason he doesn't get the same cred. But I would say like as far as like popularity wise, like he was probably the second best. But it's always a great argument for that third guy.
Oh yeah,
like Alan Jackson.
Who would your third guy be?
I think like see, I guess like technically Keith Whitley died in like 88 or 89. But I would probably say like Alan Jackson would be that third guy. Unless you're just saying artist, then I think like Reba McEntire is like right up there for 3.
Yeah.
You
gotta think about Brooks and Dunn.
Yeah,
too.
I was gonna say like they're right up there. You more Brooks or more Dunn?
I think more Dunn.
Yeah,
probably.
Lost and Found.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good song. Have you guys ever done any 90s country stuff? Like
Man,
covers?
we're actually doing a Garth song right now.
Oh,
It
yeah?
just started as a bullshit joke thing here. We were actually at Blue Light the last time we played here in town, and I was just kind of farting around with the chord progression, and then I started playing the fiddle part and sound check, and we just decided to throw it in the set.
Yeah, what is it?
It's Much Too Young.
Oh, yeah.
So, man, that song's been kind of being received pretty well everywhere. Everybody kind of just seems to go nuts, whenever you play it. So.
Yeah. See, I love Garth Brooks, and I always feel like a Garth Brooks apologist or something like that, a defender. Because early on, he was really great,
Yeah.
Much Too Young, those first, like, 2 or 3 records. But then, like, everyone always like, oh, he's not a real country guy. He's like a arena rock, smashing guitars and shit. Which, yeah, granted.
Let them say what they will. I think he was badass.
Yeah. Well, one of my arguments is, he wrote some of the songs, That George Strait really can't say that.
Yeah.
You know, so I think he probably had more to do with the songwriting aspect and the sound more than anyone else, than most people give him credit for, you know.
Yeah. He was extremely badass. And if you go back and look at some of those songs, he really is actually a pretty damn good songwriter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm trying to think. I've not listened to him in a while, but like that self-titled is really, really good. What else is on there? In Pieces, I know, is probably my favorite. That has like the red strokes on it, you know. What else is on there? Rodeo is obviously great. Is Much Too Young your favorite Garth Brooks?
I'd say it's right up there, man. He had a lot of great songs out of that time frame that were good. But that's probably right up there, top 1 or 2.
Yeah. Who do you think is like the most overrated '90s guy?
Most overrated 90s guy. Man, I don't know. That's hard to say. What would you say on that?
I think it would have to be like one of those late '90s guys, like where that transition starts happening, like the Tim McGraw or like Kenny Chesney. Though, like early Tim McGraw, solid.
Man, yeah, he actually had some pretty solid stuff when he first came out, and then after that, kind of all went.
Yeah, when it's like Tim McGraw with a mullet and a bad mustache, that's like good Tim McGraw. Yeah. Keith Whitley, you said though as well. You know, a lot of people really can't touch those songs because his vocals are so damn good.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like a hard. I guess like his songs are kind of unless you're like an incredibly great vocalist, they're kind of hard to touch. You know.
Yeah, man, I always love them. I'll sing along with them in the car, but I would never touch one on stage just because I couldn't do it justice.
Yeah. What's your favorite Whitley song?
I would probably say I'm No Stranger to the Rain. That one's always just kind of been one of my favorites.
Yeah. I love I'm Over You.
Yeah, great song.
I mean, I could put that on repeat for like an hour and not be angry, you know. Yeah, well, you know, when was the first time you started writing songs? Like, what were you doing?
I don't know, man. I was in high school, and I got tired of playing everybody else's songs, and I, you know, kind of wanted to just start messing around and write my own. And 16, maybe, when I started really trying to write songs and write stuff that made sense and that, you know, that. Yeah, that was probably about then, 16, 15, somewhere around there.
Were you trying to, at that time, recreate other stuff, like other people's? Were you like, I guess, not copying per se, but like, were you trying to? Well, let me try and write a song like insert name here, or were you trying to more get that teenage angst out?
Probably a little bit of both. You know, I really didn't know how to write songs per se, or you know, come up with my own chord progressions at the time. So, yeah, of course, I think I modeled my first stuff, you know, after other artists, and then once I kind of started figuring it out a little bit was when I really started, you know, figuring out, hey, man, you know, this is an outlet. You know, I can say whatever the hell I want to. Yeah. You know, in these 3 to 4 minutes or whatever. Yeah. So that was when it became, you know, really cool to me. Was at that time.
Yeah. Did you show those to people, or did you keep them to yourself?
You know, probably the first few I didn't show anybody, and then as I got more comfortable with myself and my guitar playing abilities, and felt like I wrote something, you know, that I was proud enough to show somebody, then I kind of started, you know, getting a little more comfortable with the idea of, you know, letting other people hear it.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time you showed somebody anything? Like, well, I'm assuming like probably those first few times playing is like there's no critique, you know, no criticism.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I was probably 16 or 17 somewhere. Probably more so when I was around 17. But you know, all that early stuff, I was just very shy about it. And, I was just didn't really feel like I was comfortable enough to get it out and show anybody anything like that.
Yeah. Where did you go to school at?
I went to school in Mason, Texas.
Okay. Was there anybody else doing anything like that? Was there a buddy or anybody who?
Yeah. I had a cousin. My cousin Jake is 2 years older than me, and his dad has always played in bands, or kept a band around, and played a bunch of dance hall shows and stuff. So me and Jake, when we were in high school, that was when we started jamming together, and I would probably show him some stuff, every now and then we really started playing songs, and yeah, so he was kind of the only other guy, there in town that was my age that was doing anything like that.
Yeah, something that I guess like I've talked with basically everyone about was, for me growing up, it wasn't until, I was out of high school at least that I realized that there's like middle ground between being a musician. Like you don't have to be George Strait, like you have to be George Strait or, completely broke. There's that middle ground of being a working band. At what point did you realize that like it was not just it could be something more than a hobby, but also you didn't have to be selling out stadiums?
That was my freshman year in college when I started trying to play gigs, because I wanted to, but a lot, out of necessity, because I realized, to make a little extra money in college. And then I realized, hey, you can do these small gigs like this, and there might be a handful of people out there, but you make a little money for your pocket and get a few of your songs out there, and it's a way to at least get by for a little while. And then as we started growing a little bit and got a band put together, then I realized, hey, yeah, you can make a living doing this, and you don't have to be George.
Yeah. Going to school in Stephenville has a community of songwriters. What was it like those first meetings, seeing people like, I'm sure like you saw Hussey and Serato before actually being in the band, obviously. What were those first seeing musicians around town and those open mics and shit like that? What was the...
It was really cool because obviously coming from Mason, Texas, there wasn't a whole hell of a lot of that going on. And then to move to a college town where there's music, a couple of nights a week, and not only just music like bar shows, but man, there were open mic nights, twice a week, every Wednesday and Sunday. And I found out about that like the first or second week I was there at school. And so I started going and just remember being amazed because, at that time it was myself and Clayton Landy and Ben and a guy named Logan Tucker and, several other guys that were doing it. So, if you wanted to get a spot, you had to get there early. And it just blew my mind how many guys, in one town were all writing songs and playing their own stuff. And, that was when it probably became the most real to me.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time you saw Six Market and you realized like they were going to be bigger than just local?
Yeah. I met Clayton right before Six Market started. And I remember watching those guys. And then I didn't see them play. I'd hang out with Clayton or whatever and we'd jam. But, and heard that they were doing some cool stuff and didn't see them, for like the first 6 months or a year that they were a band. And then I saw them right after Josh joined the band. And I think that was probably the time when I was like, holy shit, these guys are going to freaking do something huge.
Yeah.
And for the handful of the years that they were doing it, I think they probably made one of the biggest impacts on Texas country.
Yeah. I think, the first time I saw them, actually, the first time I heard them, I was like, oh, well, this is kind of cool. It's not the greatest, not the worst. But then seeing them live was really what sold me on them. It was like, oh, well, shit, man, this is actually... There's something not on that first record that's in the show, And, of course, I guess, what's that second record?
Running on 7.
Yeah. Like, that's whenever they started... I think that's when they were able to, get their feet underneath them and, like, oh, these guys are making strides, you know.
Yeah, it was really cool. And, you know, Stephenville as a community really got behind those guys from the start. I think they all saw the same thing we did. You know, there was just something special about those guys, you know, that you can always tell that there's something different, you know, about bands that are going to go do something and bands that aren't. You know, and Six Market had whatever that it factor was, you know, at the time they had it.
Yeah. I think that's also a testament to the band is that, you know, like the three main cogs of that band, you know, they've gone on and done other things, you know. You know, Josh being with Will now, and obviously like him and Ben being a producing team kind of thing. That's you know, those guys are young, you know. Usually you don't get that, I guess, much publicity in a way, I guess, like that much street cred as being producers for being so damn young, you know. But they're, I think in, you know, a decade from now, you go, oh yeah, those guys, we knew it all this entire time that they were going to do great records for other people.
Yeah, you know, Josh and Ben, just even from, you know, I met Josh in high school and could tell that guy had just an amazing ear for music. And when I met Ben, you know, it was the same kind of thing. So, and we were always messing around with recordings and jumping in the studio and trying to do stuff. And, you know, you kind of realize it, like, right then, you know, that if those guys ever wanted to, shit, they're good at all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember, I'm trying to think now. I guess it was probably like 3 years ago. They would do these arrested at church camp.
Yeah.
But then there was also like church camp criminals, and where Josh was playing drums. You know, it's like, oh shit. You know, I guess they played here a handful of times, and it was always great seeing, like, you know, 4 or 5 songwriters play in this band, and they would. I remember they'd get Nick Shute sometimes play some trumpet, and then one time Josh had met this dude playing saxophone here who was just like in Tom's, and he was like, what are you doing tomorrow? He was just like coming through town. Oh, nothing. You want to play with us? And so, like, those shows, the ones that I saw at least, that first song would be incredible. Like, holy shit, man, this is amazing. This is great. And then slowly from that point on to the end of the night, it would just be a gradual decline because, like, they had never really tested the songs out together.
Yeah.
They sound checked those first couple songs, and then after that it was just like
just
the ride.
Freestyle jamming, you know. So
Yeah.
once you're in, you're strapped in for the ride.
Yeah. Has there been any cool little song swaps that you've been a part of, or like just jam shows like that you legendary status now?
Ben and Josh and them also used to do a little project before Arrested at Church Camp called Champ and the Yokels.
Okay.
And that was Ben's side project thing. And it was always fun, you know, to jump up and, you know, play a song with those guys. Because Josh would either play drums or guitar or whatever. And then our drummer at the time, you know, he was also a bass player and a pretty damn good one, too. So, you know, he was in the band. And depending on the night, you know, they were all playing different instruments. But
yeah,
those are always extremely fun shows. You know, do a lot of cool, obscure covers, you know, that you normally wouldn't do in a live show, but just something fun, just to kind of fuck off and have fun.
No, that's probably something Stephenville has a little bit more than here, is that it feels like there's more guys being able to do multiple instruments. Like here, if you're a bass player, you're playing bass, really.
Right.
Like, I can only think of like Parker being a guy who, you know, can play really great guitar, and then obviously doing bass with Red. So,
man, I'm kind of one of those one instrument guys, so
yeah.
I can play a guitar and that's about it. But yeah, it's always amazed me, the guys that, you know, have that talent that can play, you know, anything they put in their hands.
Mm-hmm. You ever gonna start experimenting with some banjo or some mandolin?
Man, I've been
string.
Attempting to mess around with a mandolin a little bit, and I'm kind of starting to get it down some, and it's fun and it's enjoyable because, you know, it's a challenge for me, you know, because it's something new. So
yeah, I could see that being an instrument that would work well within the band, you know.
Yeah, it would. You know, our fiddle player plays a mando too, so he plays one way better than I do. So you know, I guess he would be the one playing it the majority of the time. But I'd like to eventually bring one out on stage a little bit just to change it up. You know?
Yeah. One of the best songs I've heard with Mando was Bingham was doing Terry Allen's "There Ought to Be a Law" against Sunny Southern California on mandolin, and man, it was fucking incredible. Like, I don't think anyone in the crowd really knew that song because it's an obscure Terry Allen song, but
Right.
you know, it was fucking incredible. Like, it had that drive in it, the grit. Have you heard that song before?
I've never actually heard that one, but I've heard, you know, a lot of Terry stuff.
Yeah, that one's on. I guess it's on 2 records. It's on his first record, Juarez, and like in the song, you know, Terry, I don't know what he says, like fuck probably like 3 or 4 times in it, and then he says, you know, shit a few times. So, you know, the frat cowboys love that.
Oh,
know?
yeah.
They're like, oh yeah. Well, I mean, like, the storyline's great too, but you know, if you have fucking a song,
Yeah,
sing
9
along
times
to
out
it.
of 10, people are going to be like, hell yeah, he just said the F word.
yeah, that's where, like, what's that song by Bingham? The Guess Who's Knocking. Like, I think that song honestly was a song that he wrote to try and lose fans. Like, it was right after the Crazy Heart, so he was just trying to drop some fans. So he wrote that song, and then it became like an anthem.
Yeah, it's picked up
Backfired.
like a shitload more fans
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah, I don't know. That's probably like my bottom 10 Bingham songs.
There you go.
Yeah, you a Bingham fan?
I am, man. I've always enjoyed his stuff. I think he's one of the cooler dudes out there right now, for sure.
Yeah. You know, me and Charlie were talking about this yesterday. Like, he really tried to lose that Texas country label that people were trying to put on him, you know. And he went in such a opposite direction for such a long time, you know, trying to lose it, shake it, you know. I think if we would have just called him Texas music, he would have been more okay with it, you know. But
Yeah, but, you know, I've listened to multiple interviews, you know, hearing that guy talk about his music, you know, and where he wants to go with it. And he's never been one to follow the path. So, obviously, you know, if he's trying to get labeled, he was going to try to get away from it.
yeah, you okay with labels?
They are what they are. I just play music. I don't really give a shit. Whatever they put me in.
Yeah, I bet you would have a problem if they were like Dolly Shine, the leader of Bro Country, or some shit.
Yeah,
like that.
I'd get pissed
See,
about
okay.
that. For damn sure.
Yeah, well, we're rolling on 40 minutes here. We're going to call it a good.
Sure, man.
Let you guys get out of here and eat and
Go grub and
yeah,
shower
all
and
that kind
whatnot.
of get the show face on.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, well, it was fun.
Thanks
Yeah.
for having me, dude.
We'll do it again sometime later.
Yes, sir.